Tonight, outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden commutes the sentence of American Indian Movement member Leonard Peltier.
It was quite difficult. It was very tiring. It was a long process to do.
An initial search of a former residential school grounds in Northern Ontario is sighing a breath of relief after no anomalies were found, but there is still more work to be done.
Just the pandemonium of it, seeing all the people's fear, it was contagious.
And the tale of one Saskatchewan man escapes from the fires in California. Tanse, good evening. I'm TR Waitley. This is APTN National News for Monday, January 20th. In one of his last moves as President of the United States, Joe Biden has commuted the life sentence of American Indian Movement member Leonard Peltier. The American Indian Movement, or AIM, came to prominence in the 1970s, mainly for the armed takeover of Wounded Knee on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Peltier is Anishinaabe. He was convicted of murder in the killings of 2 FBI agents after a shootout in Pine Ridge in 1975. Peltier fled to Canada and was arrested by RCMP officers at Small Boys Camp in Alberta. He was extradited to the U.S. by what many observers say was false evidence that was used to eventually convict him. Peltier has been serving his time in a Florida prison. In poor health, he will be living under house arrest in his home community on the Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota. According to the U.S.-based Indian Collective Organization, Peltier said of his clemency, quote, "It's finally over. I'm going home. I want to show the world I'm a good person with a good heart. I want to help the people, just like my grandmother taught me." In 1975, Peltier was also met by fellow AIM member Annie Mae Pictou Akwash, a Mi'kmaq woman, activist, and mother of 2 from the Sabaganagani First Nation in Nova Scotia. Akwash was 30 years old when she was kidnapped and murdered in December 1975 in the Pine Ridge Reservation. 2 AIM members were convicted in 2004 and 2010 for Akwash's murder and are each serving a life sentence. Denise Pictou Maloney is Akwash's daughter. She alleges Peltier was complicit in her mother's murder. She joins me now. Thank you, Denise, for speaking with us. What's your reaction to Peltier receiving clemency and he will serve the remainder of his sentence at his home?
Certainly, from our family perspective, devastating news. Knowing the facts that we were exposed to during my mother's trials, certainly his complicity in her murder, didn't fall far from what he had bragged about to her when she was living, that he had bragged about shooting those 2 FBI agents. So, knowing that he has not been pardoned, and that he's been granted compassionate clemency to serve his sentence, the remainder of his sentence under house arrest, certainly, doesn't add up to the public, I guess, impression of what has happened. I deal with facts, so knowing that, he has not been freed and watching everyone celebrate his freedom, or that he's been granted, some form of pass, certainly is not resonating with our family. Understanding, compassionate clemency. We all want to go home at the end of our journey, and we certainly would have preferred that our mother didn't come home in a body bag. So, we're certainly disappointed. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Just certainly, it's a lot to process.
Yeah, you could see that you're still processing. Why do you believe Peltier may have ordered your mother's murder?
Well, we never said that he ordered her murder. What he did is he was complicit in interrogating her and shoving a gun into her mouth, and certainly threatening her and bad-jacketing her, and then was participant along with the other AIM leadership in lying about who killed her for over 3 decades. So his complicity was always on the table, along with the fact that during these interrogations, he bragged about shooting the 2 FBI agents to my mom and to other women who testified and spoke about it publicly. So it's not an issue of him ordering the murder, it was that he participated and was at least complicit in her death, in what ended up in her demise.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And do you feel justice has not been served? And what does this mean for other missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls cases?
I certainly feel, badly for anyone who's lost any life in any of this over the last, almost, I want to say 49 years, 50 years for him. There was lots of deaths that were never addressed. And, whether they were on what side of the law was never the important thing. It was the loss of life. It was the humanity. It was the moral barometer of the, I would say, the dysfunction that group represented. For women, this just is indicative of the lack of priority of the safety of Indigenous women in this country. When politicians can act as barometers of justice, that's a concern. That's a deep concern when a politician can absolve a violent man who has brought a lot of violence to women, and free him on compassionate, means. It is just a sad reminder of the priority and the lack. Missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in this country is $1 billion business. There's a lot of money that goes into that cause. Very little reaches our women that are still suffering on the ground. And I'll remind, everyone that since that national inquiry sunset, the numbers did not decline. If anything, they increased. So I would say it's time to strap the bootstraps on and to start our women to start rising and just really to unconditionally start speaking and holding that safety for our women as their priority.
Yeah, those safe spaces are crucial in this issue. Thank you again for making time for us today.
Thank you very much. Well,
A residential school survivor group in Northern Ontario is expressing relief tonight. That's because an initial search of a former residential school grounds is showing no unknown burial sites. But as APTN's Mike McDonald reports, the children of Shingwauk Alumni Association say their work is far from complete, as vast areas of the property still need to be searched.
The children of Shingwauk Alumni Association began the process of searching for potential unknown graves on the former Shingwauk Indian Residential School site in Sault Ste. Marie in early 2021. The president of the association, George Diamond, says it's been a long process from community consultations and archival research to the use of technology, including ground-penetrating radar to search for anomalies.
It was quite difficult. It was very, very tiring. It was a long process to do. But we feel that we're very, very fortunate that we didn't find any unknown burial sites as of now. But we still have quite a bit of work to do in the future. There's still a big area to cover.
The initial search covered the front yard of the former Shingwauk site, which now houses Algoma University. It's been known for some time that a number of children died while attending the Shingwauk school and are buried nearby.
The big issue that we have is we have a cemetery here. And all the children that are buried there are in unmarked graves. So that's an issue that we have to try to deal with. There are 109 known graves. There's 73 children died between 1875 to 1956.
Ground-penetrating radar did initially find some anomalies. However, further investigation determined they were not burial sites. Diamond says there were many partners helping with the search, and the association wants to continue working with them.
I'd like to thank all the workers that did the work, and also working with our partners, such as Algoma University and the First Nations of Batchewana and the First Nations of Garden River. We want to continue that partnership. We want to continue working together on that into the future.
The next phase in the search will begin this summer, followed by another search in the fall, with radar scans being carried out in the area behind Algoma University. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Thanks, Mike. Survivors of the St. Anne's Residential School near Fort Albany, Ontario, are speaking at the Ontario Superior Court this week to address Canada's attempt to dismiss their fight for accountability. The virtual hearing started Monday morning and will continue through Friday. Since 2013, St. Anne survivors have been fighting Canada in court to release documents and records related to their experiences at the school. 3 survivors filed a request for direction, arguing that Canada withheld documents that could have impacted compensation through the independent assessment process. Between January 2013 and October 2020, Canada spent $3.2 million fighting St. Anne survivors in court. Ahead of this week's hearing, Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak urged Canada to, quote, address its past failures and work with survivors, not against them. Time for a quick break. When we come back, we will tell you about some Indigenous folks affected by the LA wildfires. BRB. Welcome back. 15 First Nations and the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada will co-lead a regional assessment of Ontario's Ring of Fire area after an agreement was reached Monday. The 5,000 square kilometer area, rich in mineral deposits, is located 540 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay. In April 2023, 10 First Nations in Treaty 9 sued Ontario and Canada over resource extraction in their territories, including in the Ring of Fire. The new agreement establishes a working group with community members from 15 Northern Ontario First Nations and the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada. The group will examine the environmental, health, economic, and social impacts of future development in the area. The completed report will be sent to the chiefs of the participating First Nations and Canada's Minister of Environment and Climate Change. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has 4 candidates who hope to be elected as the organization's next leader. A by-election was called in November after Grand Chief Kathy Merrick died suddenly in September. War Lake Chief Betsy Kennedy was appointed acting Grand Chief following Merrick's death. The deadline for nominations was January 18. Candidates are former York Factory Chief Leroy Constant, former Peguis Chief Glenn Hudson, former Long Plain Chief Kyra Wilson, and Saputawiak Band Councillor Bava Dillon. Voting takes place on January 29th. Only chiefs are allowed to vote. The AMC represents 63 First Nations in Manitoba. The chief of the Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation in Alberta sent a letter to Premier Daniel Smith last week denouncing the proposed construction of the world's largest AI data center on its traditional hunting grounds. Chief Sheldon Sunshine says his community has not been consulted by local or provincial governments or anyone from billionaire Kevin O'Leary's company who will own the facility. The proposed AI center has an estimated lifetime cost of $70 billion. It would use natural gas and geothermal energy to provide 7.5 gigawatts to power the AI data center at full capacity. Chief Sunshine says the site cannot go ahead without their permission. APTN will have more on this story in the coming days. Telecommunications in the north is expensive, service is lacking, outages are common, and there's few service providers to choose from. Now the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, or CRTC, is stepping in to help Northerners and Indigenous people. Here's Sarah Connors with the details.
The CRTC is taking measures to improve telecommunications in the north, something it hopes will help boost reliability and affordability of internet services for Northerners. The first improvement is aimed at Northwestel, the North's largest telecommunications provider. Northwestel will now automatically reduce customers' bills when internet services are disrupted for 24 hours or more. The CRTC says this will provide a financial incentive to limit the frequency and duration of outages. It's also making it easier for competitors to access Northwestel's network to sell services to customers. It says that access will help foster competition and provide more choice to Northerners. Finally, the CRTC is launching a public consultation to develop a subsidy for Northerners to help improve the high cost of internet services. This public interest law group that advocates for consumers says the CRTC's actions are a step in the right direction.
First, this is the right place to start, and it's long overdue. Canada is far behind when it comes to accessible, affordable internet. This is a problem my group has been highlighting for years.
Northwest tells it in a statement to APTN News it will be implementing the changes and looks forward to participating in the public consultation. How the incentives and the subsidy will be rolled out has not yet been determined. The CRTC is accepting comments from the public until February 18th. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Meanwhile, the Los Angeles fires have been burning for a couple of weeks now. The fires, which were caused by dry weather and strong Santa Ana winds, have destroyed over 12,000 structures and killed over 20 people. And as Sarah Connors tells us, First Nations people from Canada living in the city have been impacted.
Looks like picking up steam, man.
This video of a fire burning near the Hollywood Hills last week was taken by Samuel Tippewan from the roof of his apartment building.
And there was other people from my building who were on the roof standing too and observing. And we could see the fire in live action, like spreading quickly.
The fire was one of many that's been burning throughout Los Angeles, incinerating 40,000 acres of land and displacing close to 200,000 people. Tippewan is a member of the Witchigan Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. He and his family live in Hollywood, where he attends film school. The fire forced them to evacuate their apartment building last week.
Everybody's grabbing their stuff, running in the hallways. We only have like a couple elevators, so those are constantly full. And just the pandemonium of it, seeing all the people's fear, it was contagious.
Tippewan and his family received assistance from the United American Indian Involvement. The nonprofit is providing things like food, rides, and medical care to indigenous people impacted by the fires.
When the fires broke out, it was very scary and we had to adapt really quickly because
Jordan McKay is the organization's health and safety coordinator. He also happens to be from Saskatchewan and is a member of the Lac La Ronge Indian Band.
Growing up in Saskatchewan, there's just fire season that you just have to get used to. So I kind of knew what to do and what to expect. It's just a whole other scale here because you're surrounded by millions of people. And it's such a massive scale fire.
The fire near Tippewan's apartment was eventually contained, allowing he and his family to return home the next day. But as the chaos of the fires continues, they decided a short vacation was in order, and they're now visiting family in Witchigan Lake for the next few days.
And it opened our eyes to just let us remember what's important in life, and that's our loved ones.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
Thanks, Sarah. One last break. When we come back, we take you to Saskatoon to hear about a Michif language preservation program. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. A chilly day in Regina, Saskatchewan did not keep this frosty bearded squirrel from being out and about. Thanks to Brianna Desnoni for having a keen eye to see this little fellow. Send your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, St. John's -6, Charlottetown -11. Kuujjuaq -19, Happy Valley Goose Bay -23. Chibougamauguné -27, Quebec City -16. North Bay -15, Ottawa -12. Big Trout Lake -22, Sioux Lookout -23. Churchill -30, Puckatawagan -20. Barons River -19, Dauphin -10. North Battleford -4, Swift Current -3. Uranium City -15, La Ronge -7. Over to the west, Fort Chipewyan -8, Grande Prairie -2. Edmonton -1, Calgary -1. Bella Coola 2 degrees, Kamloops -1. Dease Lake -9, Smithers -3. Rock River -4, Beaver Creek -15. Norman Wells -7, Fort Simpson -1. Tuktoyaktuk -7, Fort McPherson -7. Cambridge Bay -24, Chesterfield -33. Resolute -24, Iqaluit -23. Welcome back. Métis Nation Saskatchewan is revamping a program to help families stay connected to their culture. The Lee Buffalo program will introduce Métis culture in an interactive way for families with young children. Here is video journalist Rachel May with that story.
It's for the kids, and that backpack with the Métis symbol, and that a way to identify themselves and be able to connect with other Métis children in their school or their summer camps or places they go that they might not know anyone, I think is really beneficial.
Heather Folds, a mother of 4, has received backpacks from MNS for her children. The backpack program has 2 parts, a back-to-school component and a cultural component called Lee Buffalo for children in preschool to grade 8. Folds believes cultural programs for young children are essential.
And one of the things we talk about how it's healing, that connection with culture to heals some of that trauma. And so I think about, if I had been dancing younger, or that might have been I would have really enjoyed that.
The Lee Buffalo program ran last year, but focused on providing cultural items to individual children rather than families. Andrea Fiss, Director of Education at MNS, says families can now receive a package twice a year to bring them together.
With those packages, we really want to look at making sure that the family has some cultural items and games and books and things they can do together as a family to just connect with their Métis culture and heritage.
Applications for the upcoming package just opened. Packages will begin shipping in a few months' time. The contents will vary based on the age of children in the household, but through the various games, books, and family activities, there are opportunities for education. One of the aims of the program is to help in the preservation of the Métis language, Michif.
We know that particularly heritage Michif, there's not a lot of speakers, and it is in danger, of losing this language. So making sure that in the cultural packages and in any way we can, we are incorporating the language within those activities, so parents can begin to use some of that language.
MNS Minister of Early Learning and Education, Sherry McLennan, said in a statement, including the important Métis cultural components in the backpacks is a way of instilling pride in our youth. And when our children are excited about their Métis culture, they share it with their non-Métis friends and ensure our culture continues for generations to come. Families with kids in preschool to grade 8 registered with Métis Nation Saskatchewan can call 1-877-METIS-SK for information on all programs offered by MNS, including the Backpack program. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
And that's your evening newscast. Thanks for watching. From all of us at APTN to all of you, Egase, Gitam, Kawapamitinanaw, Creason and Dennis will be back tomorrow. I'm TR Wheatley, Minnow Tipaskise. Good night.